Good evening, everybody. My name is Luke Zukanik,
I'm Maddie McMillan.
I'm Madison Warwar.
and today we will be presenting to you the external and internal analysis of Boeing. So to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about the external analysis. So Boeing is in the aerospace and defense industry, which net $929 billion in 2019. Moving on, I'd like to discuss some aerospace and defense industry trends involving smart technology. Three trends include training using augmented and virtual reality. An example of this would be training pilots in virtual reality simulators. A second trend is automation using artificial intelligence. So an example of that would be machine learning software in planes that can automatically adapt to different environments. And the third industry trend is connectivity using the Internet of Things. An example of that would be software that allows smart devices in planes to communicate information with one another through Wi-Fi. It is also important to discuss the challenges related to smart technology. One of these being overly complex technological ecosystems. With so many smart devices connected through the Internet of Things, each inputting and outputting terabytes of data by the minute and being continuously updated, it can become extremely difficult to manage and train and regulate all of these new technologies. Another challenge is cost. Integrating a fleet of smart devices all connected to one another through the Internet of Things can be very costly. And if a company becomes dependent on the technology, this will lead to even more expenses in the future or updates with these new technological innovations, which could become even costlier. And last but not least, security. Each device a business adds to its technological ecosystem is another potential soft spot that is vulnerable to security threats. Okay, so now that we've discussed the challenges related to smart technology, let's discuss some of the opportunities. The first of these being automated planes. Autopilot does about 90% of all the flying for commercial planes. Pilots really only take control of the plane on takeoff and landing, but airplane manufacturers are already working on making airplanes completely autonomous. Another opportunity would be automated assembly lines. A significant portion of manufacturing has already become automated. However, new innovations in autonomous robotic technology will make it possible for assembly lines to become completely autonomous in the future. And finally, AI-driven software. Artificial intelligence is relatively young technology in comparison to its potential. As new innovations are created in the AI space, the aerospace and defense industry will be able to leverage this technology to streamline processes and discover new solutions to existing problems. Aerospace and defense industry is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the United States. Not only are there industry-specific regulatory agencies like the FAA, DoD, or DOT, but there are secondary regulatory agencies that affect the industry like the EPA. All of these regulatory agencies make it much more difficult and expensive to do business within the industry. Specific to Boeing, however, they not only have to deal with domestic regulatory hurdles, but they also manufacture their planes internationally, and therefore they have to deal with international regulatory agency standards in order to operate in that region.
Next, we delve into the external stakeholders, which are the customers, suppliers, and competitors. Boeing's main customers are Emirates, Korean Air, and Lufthansa. Customers generally want the best products at the lowest price, which puts pressure on Boeing's profitability. They have limited influence because the airline industry is dominated by two main players, which means that Boeing is the main supplier for many companies. And because of this, customers would have very high switch costs if they try to move from Boeing to Airbus, because adding new models is very costly, getting an entire new fleet of planes. Also, the pilots must be trained, so mixed matching schedules is very hard if they're not trained in the specific aircraft, because each airplane model does fly differently. Emirates is their largest customer, and they are on the forefront of technology. They were the first airline to install video systems in their seats, and the first airline to have international in-flight mobile service. And their CEO, Tim Clark, said that the 777 is an excellent aircraft in terms of operating economics. The new technologies incorporated enable us to fit it out with the latest onboard systems and passenger amenities. So the way that Boeing is crafting their aircrafts allows their customers to optimize its efficiency. Because Boeing is a big company with a strong ability to pay, it can choose its suppliers according to its own finance requirements. Big technology firms like GE and Rolls-Royce provide Boeing with parts and raw materials. And again, because it is dominated by two major players, the powerful suppliers can use their dominant position to charge higher prices, but many suppliers do rely solely on Boeing for their business, which means that their suppliers have significantly less bargaining power. And when Boeing tries to squeeze their suppliers out, it leads to even a further loss of purchasing power, which gives Boeing more control. Boeing is also actively reducing their supply base and increasing their business with high-performing suppliers. One way to distinguish from the high performing and low performing suppliers is the use of technology. One way that the high performing suppliers are incorporating this is online supply chain tools, which streamlines inventory management. And the biggest thing that they've been doing is consumption-based ordering, which shares inventory levels with the suppliers. This allows suppliers to aggregate demand and only build when Boeing inventory falls below a certain threshold. This allows Boeing to decrease their storage facilities, which further enhances cash flow.
Boeing faces the majority of its competition from European rival Airbus. Airbus was subsidized by the French and German governments as an effort to not fall behind the US in the aircraft industry. Because of this, they benefit from being a collaborative European effort, and rather than having one largely vertically integrated organization, Airbus leverages their European support through creating centers of excellence, which are countries that are responsible for a different area of production based on traditional areas of expertise. Another benefit Airbus has is its value of innovation, which is how they set themselves apart early from Boeing. This innovation can be seen in their creation and use of lighter construction materials and their marketing of a new line of more carbon-friendly jets. However, not all of Airbus's ideas have been a success, and consequently, one of their weaknesses is its occasional failure in innovation, such as the time they attempted to change the game by producing a massive double-decker airplane that has still yet to have strong sales growth. In terms of competition, the commercial aircraft market is fully dominated by Boeing and Airbus, which together hold a 91% market share. As commercial aircrafts account for about 60% of Boeing's revenue, Airbus is a big threat to future success. Over the last 5 years, Airbus has been able to take away market share from Boeing by scaling up production quickly in a growing aviation market. Today, Boeing holds about 60% of their combined market share, while Airbus holds 40%. This is a big accomplishment given that Airbus entered the market after Boeing and can largely be attributed to the technological innovation and European support. While Boeing has higher revenues in the commercial aircraft segment than Airbus, their average revenue per craft has been declining while Airbus is increasing. In order to compete, Boeing must first be more innovative. During the last 5 years, Airbus spent more money on research and development than Boeing. In order to stay competitive and drive sales, Boeing must invest more into technological innovation. In addition, Boeing should further diversify its revenue. Airbus's revenues are better diversified than Boeing's and are for markets that have high growth potential, such as the Asia Pacific. To continue to grow, Boeing must consider spreading revenues into these crucial high growth markets. And finally, Boeing must increase its reliability. Incidents such as the grounding of the 737 MAX have greatly hurt the reputation and sales of Boeing. While Airbus has had no major groundings, Boeing has now had 2. To be more reliable, Boeing must not rush the approval process for their aircrafts and take their time to ensure they're safe. Otherwise, continued negligence could be detrimental for the company.
Now for the internal analysis. As of January 13th, David Calhoun inherited the crisis among the fallout from the MAX 37 crashes. Professional background, he previously served as the managing director and head of private equity for Blackstone. He was also the CEO of Nielsen and chairman, vice chairman of GE, and also a board member of Caterpillar, and he served on the Boeing board for 10 years, which means he was there during the entire development of the 737 and all the decisions made, so he's familiar with all the mistakes. Smart technology and strategic direction. So he came in with the goals to improve the transparency with the customers and the regulators, because that was a huge problem and is part of their looming problem right now. Boeing has launched Next, which is their new technology wing, which is reimagining the future of flight. And they say that it's leading to the safe and responsible introduction of the next generation air vehicles. This impacts their culture, which you can see on the right. It has their mission and purpose and vision. But they're championing advanced learning approaches and methods will take full advantage of our world-class technical community, achieve our STEM goals with the future workforce, drive long-term business success.
Boeing is a publicly traded company with 14 board of directors. Of these board members, 12 serve on at least one other public board company, and 2 serve on 4. These numbers have raised the concern of overboarding at Boeing, whose board was recently called the dictionary definition of a problem by a corporate governance expert. Boeing's oversight of the technological issues with their 737 MAX have recently been attributed to management rushing many of its processes to meet the Airbus competition through pushing to get premature approval for their jet. The safety oversights are argued could have been prevented if Boeing's board members were less overboarded and focused more exclusively on Boeing. After the mismanagement of the 737 grounding, Boeing has to restore its reputation with several aerospace stakeholders, including regulators, customers, and company shareholders. They must win over the FAA, European regulators, and Chinese regulators to end the grounding of the 737 MAX and make sure it can fly globally. In addition, Boeing competes largely with Airbus for airline customers and must increase investment in their aircraft portfolio in order to continue to gain their business. And finally, in a recent survey by Bank of America, Only 20% of respondents who know what a 737 MAX is think it's safe to fly, and 75% said they would switch away from a 737 MAX flight. However, the survey also indicated that the flying public will feel better about planes after months of safe operation. It's crucial for Boeing to ensure their reliability so they may gain the trust of flyers.
Now we'll discuss some of the operating characteristics of Boeing. So Boeing was founded on July 15th, 1916, making it 103 years old. Total revenue in 2019 was $76.56 billion. Total assets, $133.625 billion. And they have over 153,000 employees that work in all across the world. It's truly a global company. So for this section, I've broken down Boeing's primary value chain activities into 3 categories. The slightly impacted category will see minor changes due to the application of smart technology, mostly because the activities rely heavily on human interaction. These activities include customer management, brand management, and building cooperative relationships and legal support. The moderately impacted category contains activities that rely on the use of technology to perform, but still require a significant amount of human interaction. These include marketing management, financial management, and other support activities. Finally, the heavily impacted category contains activities that rely heavily on the use of technology and therefore will be most impacted. These activities include information technology, supply chain management, distribution and location management, and internal operations management. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, we will be more than happy to answer them.